Well, it's polling day in Maharashtra and Haryana, both the states. Of course, it's a big day for both the states and voting has already begun. Hello and welcome to Verdict 2014. I'm Frank Pereira. Let's begin with the latest election headlines. Polling underway in Maharashtra and Haryana at over 4 lakh polling booths. Heavy security in place in both states to ensure free and fair voting. Political bigwigs and celebrities line up at polling stations to cast their ballot. Nitin Gadkari rules himself out of returning to state politics, says he is not in the running for Maharashtra Chief Minister's post. Election Commission slaps notice on Raj Thackeray over alleged model code violation. MNS chief has time till today to clarify on his remark against non-Maharashtrians. Well, let's begin by focusing on what's happening in Maharashtra. Well, it is close to 3 hours now since polling got underway in over 106,000 polling stations in Maharashtra. Of course, there are about 8.25 eligible voters in Maharashtra who will choose from 4,109 candidates in the fray, including 1,699 independents. It's a 4 or 5 cornered contest here for a 288-member house. It's an epic battle of sorts in Maharashtra this time around, with a multi-cornered contest for the first time in decades. Rajya Sabha television's correspondent Rajkamal Rao has been visiting several polling booths in Mumbai this morning. He sent us this report from a booth in Kolaba in Mumbai a short while back.
We are in one of the crucial locations in Mumbai. The election process has begun. You can see the crowds have started coming in. Election Commission has put in place all arrangements for the easy access and easy availability of all these identity cards. People can come in numbers and they can go to their respective polling booths and easily cast votes. Because of Election Commission's efforts, all these crowds are evenly distributed. There are at least 8 polling booths in the area where I'm standing. Election Commission and the police staff are easily cooperating with the voters, and they are turning in huge numbers. There are at least 8 polling booths and people are turning up. At the same time, people are witnessing a very comfortable voting process today. You can see in the visuals CRPF and other Maharashtra police forces cooperating with the people. With camera person Siddharth, Rajkamal Rao, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, that was a report brought to you by Rajkamal Rao as to what's happening in Mumbai. You can see that the Election Commission has made life simple for the voters to go out and vote. Meanwhile, of course, many VIP voters have been queuing up at polling stations since voting got underway at 7 a.m. Many political bigwigs and Bollywood celebrities were at the polling booths early in the morning to cast their votes. As early as 8 in the morning, senior NCP leader Ajit Pawar was at the polling booth casting his vote from Baramati. Late Gopinath Munde's daughter and BJP leader Pankaja Munde was at the booth too, casting her vote in Beed district of Maharashtra. Bollywood actors Rekha and Abhishek Bachchan cast their votes in Mumbai. Many more celebrities and political bigwigs are expected to turn out through the course of the day today.
मैं महाराष्ट्र को वोटर्स को ये कहना चाहूंगी, ज्यादा से ज्यादा वोटर्स बाहर निकलकर मतदान करें और मतदान का परसेंटेज जब तक बढ़ेगा नहीं तब तक शायद देश बदलेगा नहीं. तो ज्यादा से ज्यादा वोटर्स बाहर आए और वोटिंग करें.
If you expect anything else, you should go out and do your duty. I'll request all our fellow citizens, this is our right, this is your duty. Please come out, please vote like I just have, and do your duty. You want to make a change in society, then you must come out and vote.
Celebrities there queuing up and voting in Mumbai, and many bigwigs also voting in several of their constituencies and their localities across Haryana and Maharashtra. Let's now quickly go across to our correspondent Rajkamal Rao, who's joining us from Mumbai. Well, Raj, very clearly we've seen that thus far, at least in the first couple of hours, the voter turnout has been quite decent in Mumbai. In the past, of course, Mumbaikars have been accused of not going out in large numbers and voting. Does it look like it's going to change today?
Frank, it's a good indication for Mumbaikars because Mumbai has 36 assembly constituencies and the voting percentage will play a crucial role in electing the candidates because in a five-cornered contest, the Mumbaikars and the Mumbai voters will have to play a crucial role. So far in the last 2 hours, we have seen, last 3 hours in fact, we have seen a good voter turnout in all these booths. I have been travelling in at least 5 to 6 polling areas in Mumbai region. Unlike in Lok Sabha elections, people are turning out in good numbers. In 2 days before, in a conversation with Rajya Sabha TV, the CEO assured that Mumbaikars will come in large numbers and participate in electoral process. I think it is coming true. It's a good news for Election Commission. I have seen a lot of polling booths and the Commission has put in place good efforts. There are no queues and that doesn't mean that people are not there. The people are coming in huge numbers, but because of Election Commission's efforts, they are not facing any difficulty. Even if they do not carry any ID card, there are several other arrangements like passport, PAN card and several documents which are approved by any government authority. So election process is so far peaceful in Mumbai. And I spoke to a few election officials. They are hopeful that this time Mumbaikars will come in large numbers and the voting percentage may increase beyond 60%, which was in Lok Sabha elections. Because in other assembly elections, Mumbai witnessed way below 50%, Frank.
Mumbai is not just the business capital of the country, it is also a city known for its glam, its glitz and its razzmatazz. We've seen several celebrities already go out and vote today, Raj Kamal. We could probably expect a few more as well. And some of the messages that are being sent out by many of these celebrities will probably, encourage some of the voters to go out and vote as well.
Frank, it's a very good indication. You have seen Abhishek Bachchan, Jaya Bachchan, even Rekha, they're all coming and voting and they are asking voters to come and vote. It's a good indication because Bollywood and celebrities have seen always on the back end, except Amir Khan, none of these Bollywood actresses were promoting election and electoral process. It's a good indication for Mumbaikars because it's a glittering city and voters are generally lazy and they do not come and vote. It's 10 o'clock and after 12 there will be a reduction in number of voters turning out to polling booths because of it's very humid and its sun is very hot and burning in Mumbai. So we are expecting a good voter turnout as per Election Commission officials, but voting percentage may increase after 3 o'clock because it's a very big city and it's very difficult for voters to go to their polling booths. I have seen even some of the houses are made as polling booths because it's a very densely populated city. It's difficult for all these Election Commission officials to provide polling booths in every nook and corner. So it has been a difficult task, but so far Election Commission has been successful.
All right, Rajkamal Rao, do stay with us, of course. We'll try and come back to you during the course of this newscast to get another update from Mumbai. But in the meantime, let's move on. Now, never before in the history of Maharashtra has there been a five-cornered contest. The big question is, will any single party get a clear majority? And if not, what possible realignments will take place? Here's a look at the political backdrop against which these elections are being fought.
3 weeks back, these two developments probably had the biggest impact on the possibilities of the assembly polls outcome in Maharashtra. A 25-year-old alliance and 15-year-old tie-up snapped over differences between the top four parties of the state. That is why this year's assembly elections will be an interesting affair. With 288 seats at stake, most parties are contesting in almost all seats for the first time in a long while. Over 8 crore voters are expected to participate in the polling process to decide the fate of around 4,000 candidates. A big challenge for the Election Commission will be to attract more voters to exercise their franchise this time. In 2009, Maharashtra recorded 60% voter turnout. The administrative unit in the state has taken numerous steps to amplify the turnout, especially of female voters.
We focus on female voter first. When female voter come for voting, her all family will go out. We go to all villages. We organize Mahila Gram Sabha and Nukkad Natak.
There will quite a few contests that will be keenly watched on Wednesday. Former Chief Minister Prithviraj Chavan will try and retain his seat from South Karat constituency. His former deputy Ajit Pawar is seeking re-election from his stronghold in Baramati. BJP State President Devendra Fadnavis from Nagpur Southwest and party leader Eknath Khadse from Muktai Nagar are the two frontrunners for the CM's post. In 2009, Congress and NCP together won 144 seats. The BJP Sena alliance won 90. On debut that year, Raj Thakre's MNS could only win 13. However, the tables turned drastically in the recent Lok Sabha polls, where BJP and Shiv Sena swept 41 out of 48 seats. Congress and NCP were left with 6 seats between them. While political pundits feel the state will throw up a hung assembly this time, much depends on who will benefit from the anti-incumbency factor against the 15-year rule of the Congress-NCP government, and to what extent. With inputs from Rajkamal Rao and Kriti Mishra, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, that's the latest from Maharashtra. Let's now quickly get you an update from Haryana. About 1.63 crore voters, including 87 lakh women, are eligible to cast their vote in Haryana today. They'll be sealing the fate of 1,351 candidates, including 109 women. The Election Commission has taken all necessary steps to ensure free and fair polling. Women officers have been deployed at all polling booths to stop fraud votes. Like in Maharashtra and Haryana too, political bigwigs have been lining up at polling booths to cast their votes. Chief Minister Bhupinder Singh Hooda spoke to the media outside a polling centre.
मत का अधिकार हर व्यक्ति को मिला है और जो जवान बच्चे हैं उनको 18 साल की उम्र में राजीव गांधी जी ने जो मत का अधिकार दिया है, सबको अपना मत का प्रयोग करना चाहिए ताकि अच्छी और सुथरी सरकार बन सके और उनकी सेवा कर सके.
Well, let's now go across to our correspondent Vishal Dahiya, who joins us for more from Rohtak. Well, Vishal, we've seen, what's happened is the fact that you're there at Bhupinder Singh Hooda's constituency, and a lot of activity taking place behind you as well. Give us a sense of what really is happening there at the Chief Minister's constituency.
Well, you're right. We are not only in Chief Minister's constituency, but we are in Chief Minister's ancestral village right now. That's Sanghi, and we are expecting the Chief Minister to be here along with his family members in a short while from now to cast his vote. The statement which was given by the Chief Minister early in the morning was clearly indicative of the fact that the Congress Party and the Chief Minister himself is banking his hopes on their supporters coming out in large numbers to cast their vote. As far as his constituency is concerned, it seems to be a comfortable position for the Chief Minister himself in his constituency, but quite difficult to say of the Congress Party across the state. There is a tough competition. It is a multi-cornered contest this time around in Haryana, as it has been seen in Maharashtra as well. Both the national parties, that is the Congress and BJP, are trying to go ahead and grab that share of the pie. Now, the political equations have been complicated much more in Haryana because of BJP going it all alone and putting its all. The Prime Minister even campaigning for the BJP candidates, addressing quite a few rallies. The BJP, decided to break all the alliances with HJC, didn't go in for any truck with INLD. INLD, which is the main opposition party in the outgoing assembly, is also trying to make a comeback to the power. So obviously the political scenario and the political scene in Haryana is a little bit more complicated than it was expected in previous or the last elections. As far as voters are concerned, pretty enthusiastic voters seems that the queue as at polling booths, be it the queue for the women voters or the men voters, it's almost as long as it can be, because there are voters who are coming out in large numbers, both in rural areas and in urban areas, and previous percentage for assembly polls for voter turnout in Haryana was somewhere around 70%. Right. It would be really interesting to see as to in this hotly or rather very keenly contested election this time around, how many people will come out.
All right, do stay with us, Vishal. We'll get a perspective from you in just a bit. Let's go across to Shyam Sundar, our correspondent, who's joining us from Faridabad now, and get a view from him as well. Shyam, Vishal there explaining to us how there have been serpentine queues in Haryana. Give us a sense of what's happening behind you as well. We can see a lot of activity there. Looks like there are quite a few people who have come out in numbers to vote in Haryana, as opposed to what's happening in Mumbai and Maharashtra. Sham, if you can hear me very clearly, there looks like there's a lot of activity going on behind you. It looks like several people have come out in numbers to come out and vote there in Haryana, as opposed to what's happening in Maharashtra and Mumbai. The voter turnout is very less, but here we can see several people have already turned up early in the morning to cast their vote.
Well, Frank, we have seen long queues on polling booths in both areas, rural or urban. Now, in the morning, we were traveling in rural area. Now we have come to an urban center, and we have seen long queues here. And there are camps of different political parties, and we have some activists from BJP here. Let us talk to them. ये बताइए, इस बार यहाँ पर मल्टी कॉर्नर फाइट है. ये आपके जो सांसद है यहाँ से कृष्णपाल, जो सेंटर में मिनिस्टर भी हैं, उनकी सीट रही है. काफी प्रतिष्ठा का सवाल है बीजेपी के लिए.
देखिए, यहाँ पर जो इस वक्त जो पोलिंग चल रही है, ये सिर्फ एक ही चीज को सोच के चल रही है कि जिस तरह से मोदी जी को लेके आए हैं देश के लिए, उसी तरीके से हरियाणा में सरकार बनाकर और ज्यादा से ज्यादा राज्यसभा में सीटें भेजनी है हमारे को हरियाणा से. तो इसी मुद्दे को लेकर भारतीय जनता पार्टी अपने हरियाणा में अपना इलेक्शन फाइट कर रही है.
आप बताइए, आप नौजवान हैं, आप बीजेपी की टोपी पहन के क्यों प्रचार कर रहे हैं?
हम देश की तरक्की के लिए बीजेपी की टोपी पहन के प्रचार कर रहे हैं. जैसे मोदी जी ने हमारा विदेशों में नाम करा है, उसी तरीके से हमारे देश में प्रचार करेंगे और देश की तरक्की करेंगे.
लेकिन ये कहा जा रहा है कि जो बीजेपी के कैंडिडेट हैं वो लास्ट मोमेंट पे आए हैं, बीजेपी के कार्यकर्ताओं की अनदेखी करके उनको टिकट दे दिया गया क्योंकि वो पैसे वाले हैं.
ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. हम वोट केवल मोदी जी के नाम पे मांग रहे हैं. हमें केवल चुनाव चिन्ह दिखता है, कमल का फूल, और देश की तरक्की. हमें कैंडिडेट से कोई मतलब नहीं है.
So, Frank, you have seen that BJP is depending heavily on Modi wave even in this assembly election.
All right. Thank you so much, Sham, for joining us with that update there. It certainly looks like the people or the workers of the BJP want the Modi magic to work in Haryana as well. Sham Sundar and Vishal Dahiya, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us with those updates there from Haryana and giving us a sense of what's happening on the ground. Well, Haryana has largely three-way contest this time around. Despite a high-pitched campaign by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the Congress is looking for a record third term under the leadership of Bhupinder Singh Hooda. The BJP is contesting in the state alone in all 90 seats for the first time. Here's a detailed report.
There will be some interesting contests on the cards. Incumbent Chief Minister Hooda will look to regain Gadhi Sapla seat in the Jat heartland of the state. Uchana Kala will be a prestigious contest for INLD. The seat is currently represented by its jail chief O.P. Chautala. The party has fielded his kin Dushyant Chautala to retain the seat. Haryana Janhit Congress chief Kuldeep Bishnoi is in fray from Bhajanlal's bastion Adampur. After losing from Hisar in the Lok Sabha elections, it has now become a huge challenge for the Bishnoi family to retain the seat in assembly polls. Haryana BJP President Ramvilas Sharma is once again contesting from Mahendragarh seat. He is one of the top contenders for the Chief Minister's post from BJP. In the 2009 polls, it was a tight contest between Congress and INLD. BJP and HJC could not manage to win more than 10 seats. The two parties have now parted ways to contest the polls alone. But things have changed a lot since 2009 as the BJP is riding high after an impressive show in the 2014 Lok Sabha elections. The party bagged 7 out of the 10 seats. Ruling Congress was decimated to just 1 seat while INLD won 2. It remains to be seen if BJP will be able to transform their superlative form into votes in the assembly polls too. With inputs from Akhilesh Suman, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but on the other side, we'll try and analyze these polls for you right here on Rajya Sabha television. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Union Minister Nitin Gadkari has ruled himself out of returning to state politics even if the BJP comes to power in Maharashtra. Reacting to speculations that he could be a contender for the Chief Minister's post, the Union Transport Minister said that there is no dearth of party leaders capable of occupying the post. Gadkari was one of the key campaigners for the BJP in the run-up to the polls. He addressed 64 public meetings across Maharashtra in the last few weeks. He said that the party's central leadership will decide the name of the legislative party leader after the polls, but he declined to name any frontrunner. Meanwhile, the Election Commission has issued a show-cause notice to MNS Chief Raj Thackeray. The notice was issued for his alleged remarks against non-Maharashtrians at an election meeting in Ghatkopar Assembly constituency on October 5th. According to the poll panel, it is a prima facie case of model code violation. The Commission has given him time till Wednesday morning to respond to it, failing which the poll body will take a decision without further reference to him. While joining me on the program this morning is Anant Bagatkar, Chief of News Bureau Sakal Group. Very good morning, Anant, and thank you for joining us this morning. Also with us is Rajkamal Rao, our correspondent who's standing by in Mumbai. Anant, let's talk about Maharashtra first before we move on to Haryana. Of course, this is the first time in several decades that we're going to see a more or less 4 or 5 cornered contest or a multi-cornered contest, and this is not just for the sake of it. These contenders are serious contenders and each one of them wants to make a mark in these elections.
Absolutely, because all the 5 contenders, that is MNS, Shiv Sena, NCP, Congress and of course BJP, their prestige is at stake, because earlier we witnessed the 2 combinations, one led by Congress with NCP and another combination either led by Shiv Sena or BJP, but that 2 combination used to fight in last 15 years. But now all the parties have parted from their respective friends, and now everybody is fighting on their own. So that is why the Maharashtra fight has become very much interesting. Now, since I said that the prestige is at stake, not only the prestige but the survival of these parties, and especially the 3 regional parties which are contesting in Maharashtra, that is Shiv Sena, MNS and NCP, their survival is also at stake in this election. And that is why one will have to see how voters turn out, how that vote will be converted into seats, and how much these parties will get out of it.
Indeed. That's something that we'll have to wait and watch, and we'll probably get a clear picture just in a couple of days or 3-4 days from now, of course. But as far as post-poll alliances are concerned, Anant, I mean, we've seen, a frontal attack by all these parties against each other, but all of them are keeping their cards open because, this might be a major factor once we get a clear trend by around 12 noon on the 19th of October.
Yeah, absolutely. But during the campaign also, you must have noticed one thing. There was a common factor that Shiv Sena was attacking BJP, NCP Congress, obviously they were attacking BJP, and even the MNS was also attacking BJP. So in a way, BJP was fighting a lone battle in Maharashtra. That is one thing. Now, the way Shiv Sena and BJP parted, and the bitterness which crept in, and which again at the end of the campaign and yesterday's Samna's editorial, if we really go through it, it was the bitterest attack from Shiv Sena on BJP, and not BJP but the Prime Minister of India, that is Narendra Modi, who campaigned all through Maharashtra with such a vigor, and though he did not attack BJP and declared that out of respect to late Bala Saheb Thackeray, he will not attack Shiv Sena. But all his other comrades and other colleagues, they did attack Shiv Sena, and Shiv Sena also in retaliation. And obviously, as I said, it's a question of their survival.
It is indeed a question of their survival.
And that is why you can see that vehemence, with vengeance, Shiv Sena attacked Modi and BJP more than Congress and NCP.
Indeed. Talking about the Prime Minister Narendra Modi now, I'm going to come to you, Rajkamal Rao. Give us, an idea of what kind of an impact really has Prime Minister Modi had on the ground there. Are the people of Maharashtra really going out and talking about, Prime Minister Modi and what is being done at the national level? Or is it still the local issues that, that matter to the people there in Maharashtra?
Frank, people want local issues to be addressed by all these political parties, including BJP. But people generally are very well aware of Prime Minister's work in last few months. So that is why Prime Minister attracts more crowds and people discuss about him. But that doesn't mean that they are in favor of BJP, because it's a five-cornered contest. Any party who gets at least 25% of total votes will have have an opportunity to occupy the government in Maharashtra. So it's very difficult to say whether Modi could influence the public and voting percentage and voting turnout and all. That's we will have to wait and see, and only on 19th we'll get to know. But on the issues front, BJP has not addressed any local issues as far as their campaign is concerned. Modi addressing more than 20 rallies itself an indication that state political parties' leadership is not confident of themselves. But that is why they've promoted Narendra Modi.
All right, Rajkamal Rao, thank you so much for joining us there with those updates from Maharashtra. I'm going to let you go now, of course, and we'll keep coming back to you during the course of the day to get us the latest from that particular state. Anand, but let's continue talking here in our studio and talk about what's happening in Haryana. We've analyzed what's likely to happen in Maharashtra, but it's a similar situation if you look at it in Haryana as well. All alliances have been broken except barring one, of course, of the Akali Dal and the INLD, but other alliances are all broken. So how do you see the contest here in Haryana?
No, it's surprisingly, it's a very surprising similarity, one can say, that though it's a small state compared to Maharashtra, and Maharashtra it's a five corners fight. But in Haryana, again, we saw that BJP is going alone, like in Maharashtra. Then Congress is ruling there. In Maharashtra, it was Congress plus NCP. They were ruling for 15 years, 3 consecutive terms. And here also in Haryana, Congress was ruling for 2 consecutive terms. So quite similar situation we are witnessing here. Another thing that INLD, which is a state party, they are also emerging as a one can say. We can't say it's a front runner, but they are also giving a good fight.
Yes, as a strong contender.
Strong contender. So it's a 3-cornered fight. And again, in Maharashtra, we saw these fringe groups like MNS and Rashtriya Swabhiman Party and other PWP and like that. Here also we have got HJC and some other 2-3 parties by Gopal Kanda, Vinod Sharma, like that. But since this election and the multi-corner fight, these fringe groups also will have some kind of a say in the post-poll scenario.
Indeed.
Which one will have to see how they play, how they come out, and if we see that Lok Sabha elections and the trend, I think, of last few years, that people are more tend to vote for a stability and a single party.
Indeed.
We saw it in UP. You can remember, we can recall Maha-yuti. After that, it is Samajwadi Party. At the center also, we saw BJP coming to power on its own, though they are having alliance with other parties. But we can see this changing trend in Indian polity, that people are more tend to vote for a single party, and obviously in keeping in mind the stability.
Indeed.
I think we will have to see whether it really happens in this election.
Another similarity is the fact that the BJP doesn't really have any strong leaders or, grassroots leaders in Maharashtra and Haryana. And they still seem to be banking on Prime Minister Modi's magic in both these states. Is the magic going to continue post the Lok Sabha elections? Is it going to continue in the assembly elections as well?
Actually, they want to extend that magic from Delhi to Haryana as well as Mumbai.
Okay. So is that going to happen? Is that going to happen, or is it, the Lok Sabha elections were different, whereas assembly elections are different, they are fought at the local level. So how much of an impact is it really going to have?
No, obviously local issues do influence elections of an assembly. So local issues will definitely influence Maharashtra as well as Haryana. And if we see the results of recently held by-elections in different states, the results were completely unexpected,
Yes.
especially in Rajasthan, Gujarat, UP.
Bihar as well.
Yeah. So obviously the local issues, the issues will definitely play their role. And
Indeed.
in Maharashtra, again, means there are local issues, governance issues are there, corruption issues, scams, scandals. So and the uppermost as far as Haryana and Maharashtra is both the states are concerned, it's anti-incumbency.
All right.
So it's a fatigue also on the part
Okay,
of
fatigue, anti-incumbency is going to be a major issue in both these states. Thank you so much, Anand, for joining us with your thoughts and perspectives on the latest here as well. Well, that's it on this edition of Verdict 2014. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back later in the day to give you a roundup of what happened through the course of the day in Maharashtra and Haryana. Bye-bye.